Another West Virginia football player that has started football games for the Mountaineers has announced they will be entering the transfer portal. We're going to talk about that in this episode. We're also going to talk about an assistant coach who will be leaving the program, and it's one that I think most fans would agree is one we did not want to see go. However, could they actually replace him with somebody much better, or at least better in Mountaineer fans' eyes? We're going to talk about that in this episode, and we're going to have those conversations right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis surrounding the West Virginia Mountaineers and sometimes a little bit around the Big 12 as well. Today, we're talking West Virginia Mountaineer football, and we're talking about the transfer portal, and we're talking about the coaching carousel, at least as far as the assistants go. We all know Coach Rod is not going anywhere, at least not right now, unless he takes the Michigan job. And yes, that's a joke. That is a joke. But think about this, totally off topic here, but wouldn't it be ironic if Kalen DeBoer leaves Alabama to go to Michigan, which is what's being rumored right now, or at least very likely, or at least possible. I shouldn't say likely, but possible to happen. Wouldn't it be ironic that the year Coach Rod comes back to West Virginia is the year that both Alabama and Michigan both open at the same time? I thought that I would find that very, very ironic. But anyway, back to the topics at hand. West Virginia has lost their first assistant coach, and it's running back coach Larry Porter. Now, they brought Larry Porter in, a very, very well-respected running backs coach, has coached the likes of Amarion Hampton at North Carolina, Leonard Fournette at LSU throughout his career, a very highly respected running backs coach. He has taken a job as running backs coach at Auburn in the SEC, a place where he was tight ends coach once before. So he's going back to the SEC. I think this is a sort of a big hit for the Mountaineer staff. I did think Larry Porter was a very good coach. I know some fans did not see that he was that good of a coach, but I'll be honest. The adversity they were dealt this year in the running back room with all the injuries, the struggles they had on the offensive line, it was really hard for any running back at West Virginia to do much. I do think Larry Porter's a very good football coach. We saw Dior Hubbard, how much better he got throughout the year when he was given opportunities. I mean, he started the season off not even on the travel squad, and he was out of necessity the starter by the end of the year and played well in some games. So I thought we saw progression there. I liked what we saw out of Ty Edwards in his only game that he was able to play because of injury. So I had no issue. We saw Sincere Bowers get a little bit better throughout the year. With the struggles that room had, I feel like it was unfair to judge him too much, but I felt like that he did a pretty good job. And when you look at his track record, he's a good football coach, a very highly respected recruiter as well. Now, with him leaving, how will that impact, how much did him being there affect, running backs like Amari Latimer coming to West Virginia? The 4-star flip that they got from Wisconsin in the signing class, who many think may come in and start. The JUCO transfer, Martavius Boswell. How impactful was Larry Porter in recruiting him? We don't know the answer to these questions, but it will be interesting to see if any of these players ask out of their national letter of intent. Sir Paul Cheeks, another one. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see if any of these guys, hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully they're there to play for West Virginia and not just for a specific coach. But we all know position coaches do matter. They matter a lot. A lot of times those are the coaches they build the relationships with in the recruiting process. But nonetheless, Larry Porter's taking the job at Auburn. So what I'm going to do is give you a list of some possible replacements for Larry Porter. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about Khalil Wilkins entering the transfer portal. But one off-the-radar name that I thought I'd jot down and make some notes on is a running backs coach by the name of Brian Anderson. Now, Brian Anderson has been the running backs coach at Kansas State for the last 7 years under Chris Kleiman, has done a great job there. But he is, according to reports, will not be retained by new coach Colin Klein. But when you look at Brian Anderson's career, before he came to Kansas State, he spent time at Illinois State. Some small schools in Illinois. He followed Coach Jerry Kill around for a few years, even coached under him at Minnesota. He coached wide receivers for a while, and he coached running backs. And, of course, at Kansas State, he coached running backs during his tenure there. And he did a great job. 6 out of his 7 years. In the first 6 years he was there, he had an all Big 12 back. He coached Deuce Vaughn. He coached DJ Giddens. He most recently coached Dylan Edwards, but we all know that Dylan Edwards did not play a ton at Kansas State due to injury. But he had a great career. I mean, look, Deuce Vaughn, what was he, 5'5", 5'6"? The guy got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, and he was mentored by Brian Anderson. He had 4 straight 1,000-yard rushers. So, again, he's a proven running backs coach. I've seen comments by K-State fans on X. They did not like to see him go. This is one of the assistant coaches they wanted Colin Klein to keep, but Colin Klein chose to let him go. I mentioned he spent time with Jerry Kill at Minnesota. Now, the one thing about Brian Anderson, and the reason I think this is probably not going to happen, is I did not see any ties to Rich Rodriguez throughout his career. So I'm not sure how familiar he would be with Rich Rod at all in the system they run. Now, a good coach is a good coach, and they can adapt no matter where they are. But we all know that with these coaches, familiarity matters. They like to work with people they know, that they're comfortable with, and that they know will buy into what they're trying to teach and what they're trying to do. I don't know. I'm sure Coach Rod probably knows of Brian Anderson throughout the coaching circles, but I see this as a very unlikely candidate, but one that we could probably keep our eye on because he does have experience in the Big 12 coaching running backs, and he has put guys in the NFL. So Brian Anderson from Kansas State is one that I think we should keep an eye out for. And if he would happen to get hired, I don't think it would be a bad hire at all. Now let's talk about one that most Mountaineer fans, or at least many Mountaineer fans, would love to see, and that's Juwan Sider. We all know Juwan Sider spent time at West Virginia on the staff during his early coaching days. He was something, I don't know what his title was, but he did work with players like Pat White, like Geno Smith at one time when he was, on Dana Holgerson's staff and Bill Stewart. And he's worked with, Jarrett Brown as well. He's worked with multiple West Virginia quarterbacks. Then at some point in his career, I'm not exactly sure when, he switched over to coaching running backs. He coached running backs at West Virginia under Dana Holgerson. He helped mentor Wendell Smallwood to a 1,000-yard season. I hate to bring this guy's name up because of what he did after football, but Justin Crawford was a 1,000-yard rusher at West Virginia under the coaching of Juwan Sider. Juwan Sider is also known to be a great recruiter. He's landed a lot of big names during his career. He was a top 10 recruiter by On3 and 24/7 Sports in 2022 and 2019, respectively. He was named Big Ten Recruiter of the Year in 2023 during his time at Penn State. And speaking of Penn State, have you ever heard of a couple running backs named Katron Allen and Nick Singleton? Both of those guys were coached by Juwan Sider. Both backs had 1,000-yard seasons. Twice in his career, he has been on teams or on staffs where they've had 2 players rush for 800 yards or more in the same season. It happened at West Virginia with Pat White and Steve Slayton, and it happened at Penn State with Allen and Singleton. So this guy can coach running backs. He can coach offense. He's been co-offensive coordinator at stops during his career at Penn State. Now he's the associate head coach and running backs coach at Notre Dame, where he spent last season coaching a guy by the name of Jeremiah Love. Does that name ring a bell? Guy who might win the Heisman Trophy. Well, and Juwan Sider, he's a West Virginia alum. He played at West Virginia. He's been on the staff multiple times. It's my understanding he has a daughter that goes to West Virginia. And, oh, by the way, his nephew just currently signed to play for West Virginia for 2025. The quarterback, Jaron Hewley, the highest-rated quarterback in the class for the Mountaineers. A high 3-star recruit. The nephew of Juwan Sider. So would he want to come back home, be closer to his daughter? Would he want to come back home and help coach his nephew? It's possible. But if that happens, if they want to get Juwan Sider, it's going to cost some money. Because based on my research, it appears he's making around $1 million a year at Notre Dame as the associate head coach and running backs coach. So West Virginia will have to pony up some dough if they wanted Juwan Sider in the fold. Right now, it's my understanding Larry Porter is making about $250,000 a year as a base salary. With incentives, he can make up to $300,000 a year. Big difference. Now, West Virginia has shown the willingness to spend some money. Do they have it, or will they rather bring in another coach who would cost less money and spend that money on players? Personally, and although this might be a hot take, I think I'd rather see him do that because there are other names on this list that I'll get to in a minute I think you could get for less money. Now, I don't necessarily think you would necessarily have to pay Sider. He may not want to. He would come back for less than $1 million, but I doubt he's going to do it for $300,000 a year. But Juwan Sider would be a huge get if they can afford him. I think I would love to see Juwan Sider come home, but it'll be a tough task to pull him away from the Fighting Irish right now. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a couple other names. Obviously, one is Chad Scott. We all know Chad Scott. Don't really need to talk too much about his resume. Us Mountaineer fans are aware of it. Great recruiter, responsible for turning C.J. Donaldson into the back he became. He came to West Virginia as a tight end. We all know the development we saw in Jaheim White. We all know that Chad Scott is a great recruiter. We know the players love him. Even the players who aren't in his room love him. So if Chad Scott came back to West Virginia, I think he could bring some good talent with him. Now, my guess is that won't happen. He was actually on the staff for a short time after Rich Rod came. Chad Scott and Blaine Stewart were the only two coaches retained by Coach Rod initially. Now, they both ended up eventually leaving before the season even started. We know Blaine Stewart went back to the NFL to take a position with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And we all know that Chad Scott went to be the running backs coach at Texas. He just got fired from that position. So he is looking for a job. But guess who else is probably hiring a running backs coach right now? Neil Brown at North Texas. It would not surprise me in the least to see Scott reunite with Brown at North Texas. But if Coach Rod wanted to bring him back, I would love it. I do like Chad Scott. I think he's a great coach. I actually think he could be a really good offensive coordinator one day. But if he wants to come back to WVU and work for Coach Rod, but in my opinion, if he felt like he was a fit to be at West Virginia, I don't think he would have left for Texas. That's just my opinion. I'm not sure what Texas paid him, but he was making about $750,000 at West Virginia because he was had the label of offensive coordinator. So he was getting offensive coordinator money at West Virginia and still had another year left on his contract. Yet he still left to go to Texas. Now, so that tells me that he might not have been a fit for Coach Rod's and what he wanted to do. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe just the excitement of going to coach at a place like Texas and the way that could help your career, maybe that enticed him to leave. I don't know. But nonetheless, he did. And that's when they went out and hired Larry Porter. But I think Chad Scott is a very, very unlikely candidate, but one that West Virginia fans obviously are familiar with and want to discuss. Now, the one I think would be the most likely to happen is Rod McDowell. Now, Rod McDowell actually coached he's actually currently the running backs coach and run game coordinator at Marshall, just down the road in Huntington, under Tony Gibson. But Rod McDowell has coached for Rich Rodriguez at multiple stops, starting out in 2021 when Coach Rod was the offensive coordinator at Louisiana Monroe. Rod McDowell was his running backs coach. And when he came over, the Louisiana Monroe had only averaged 80 yards per game on the ground. They were not a good team. When he came to be the running backs coach, that average bumped up to by 50 yards a game. So he more than doubled their production in 1 year, or at least helped double it. So he had success there. He was at Jacksonville State for 3 years as a running backs coach under Rich Rod. 2 of those 3 years, they were ranked 3rd in the country in rushing yards per game, 2023 and 2024. And he mentored a player by the name of Trey Stewart, who carried the ball for over 1,600 yards in 2024 at Jacksonville State. And that player, if I'm not mistaken, was a D2 player before he got to Jacksonville State. And he ran for over 1,600 yards for the Gamecocks. So he has success as a running back. And Marshall this past season, even though they finished with a losing record, they were 26th in the country in running the football. So do not be surprised if you see Rod McDowell be hired to replace, and because of his familiarity with Rich Rod and what he wants to do, he could probably hit the ground running. From a schematic perspective, from a culture perspective, you wouldn't have to do anything to help train him, or he would know exactly what to expect. It would be an easy transition for him. So that would not surprise me at all to see Rod McDowell be hired to replace. And I don't think you're going to have to pay him the same money you would have to pay maybe a Jawan Sider, maybe not even Chad Scott. You could probably get him for about the same money you were paying Larry Porter. So that's my opinion on where they will end up going. Again, would he be my top choice? No. But I think it's a candidate that's more attainable, but yet still a good football coach and has a track record of success. And that track record of success happened under Rich Rodriguez at least for most of it. So let me know what you think in the comments about who you think would be the best addition or the best replacement for Larry Porter. And also recommend you go over to our website at wvsportschat.com. Shauna Rose wrote an article about Larry Porter leaving to take the Texas job. Go check it out. She does a great job. She's a great writer. Again, wvsportschat.com. I will try to remember to leave a link to that article in the show notes below. Now, second topic of the show is talking about Khalil Wilkins going to the transfer portal. Before I do that, though, in the corner of the screen, you see Appalachia Digital. They're the fine folks who designed that website, wvsportschat.com. If you want them to design you a site, they can do that. Go to appalachiadigital.com/Couz. That lets them know I sent you. They can help you design a site. If you already have a site and you want to upgrade it or level it up or get it found easier on Google, they can do all that too. Again, go to appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know Couz sent you. And speaking of sponsors, you see the screen behind me with the Couz's Corner logo? If you want to get if you own a small business or a big business for that matter, and you want to get it featured on there, give me a shout. Email me at couz.walker, couz.walker@gmail.com, and I would love to partner with you and advertise for your business. Let's talk about it. And even over at our website as well. We can talk about all those things. So hit me up. Now, let's go ahead and jump over to talk about Khalil Wilkins. Article over at the site by Jonathan Martin. West Virginia redshirt freshman quarterback Khalil Wilkins has announced his intentions to enter the NCAA transfer portal. Wilkins, a promising dual threat signal caller, will have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. His breakthrough, or at least his most notable action, came midway through the 2025 season. Thrust into the starting role on a short week against a ranked BYU squad on the road, Wilkins battled valiantly despite the Mountaineers' eventual defeat. Though his passing line, 7 of 15 for 81 yards and 2 interceptions, left room for improvement, Wilkins' mobility was put on full display. On the season, Wilkins threw for 185 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. He did, however, rush for 243 yards and 2 scores. And I'm going to share on the screen with you Wilkins' announcement. A very well wrote out announcement that he put on his social media platforms. If you can't read it, don't worry, I'm going to read it to you. Here's what it says. Thank you, WVU, to my West Virginia family. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to wear the gold and blue. My time at WVU has shaped me on and off the field, and I'm truly grateful for every coach, teammate, and fan who supported me along the way, as I did my best to put it on the line. And he put that in quotation marks. The brotherhood in the locker room is real. After a lot of thought and conversations with those close to me, I've decided to enter the transfer portal. This choice comes from a place of gratitude for what this university has given me and excitement for what lies ahead. I will be entering the transfer portal with 3 years of eligibility remaining. Go Mountaineers. Signed, Khalil Wilkins. Now, this is the third player technically that has starting experience in Morgantown. Obviously, Jaheim White was the big one that hit earlier this week. Dior Hubbard was right behind him the same day. And now Khalil Wilkins. Is this a big loss? I don't want to be disrespectful to Khalil Wilkins because I do think he's a good quarterback. And I do think he played well for the most part for West Virginia. And I do think he can succeed somewhere. But at the same time, I don't think losing him is going to be a detriment to the football team. I hope that makes sense. He was recruited by Neil Brown. You know, kudos to Khalil Wilkins. He stayed loyal to West Virginia. Wanted to give it a try under Rich Rodriguez. Got a try. But, you know, for whatever reason, he feels like it's best for him to move on. And, you know, it's possible this could be a mutual decision. We don't know the answer. We never will know and don't really need to know. But, you know, they brought in 3 quarterbacks out of the high school ranks, or at least 3 that they're going to give a chance to play quarterback. Coach Rod mentioned that he'll probably get at least one out of the portal. We know, there's still Scotty Fox so far. I mean, unless he announces he's leaving. Nico hasn't announced his intentions yet, even though rumors have speculated that he's going to leave. There's still, Max Brown still in the room. Jalen Henderson potentially could come back for another year if he gets granted eligibility by the NCAA. But out of all of those, Khalil was probably my second or third choice as far as players I would rather see stay. And again, it's not a indictment on him at all. I just think as far as where he's at right now in his career versus the other guys, he got a little behind because he did battle some injuries. He missed all of spring camp last year. That put him behind the 8 ball. Even though he was technically his second year in the program, because of the new coach coming in, the new system coming in, he basically had to start over just like everybody else. And because he wasn't able to go through spring, he got behind. And Scotty Fox was able to surpass him, in my opinion. And Scotty Fox showed us a little bit more in his chances that he had to play. Khalil's a better runner than Scotty, but Scotty showed us that he's a better thrower of the football, in my opinion. I felt like he made better decisions with the football. He was more accurate with the ball. And even though Coach Rod needs a quarterback that's a great runner, you still have to be accurate passer when you do throw it. The 40% of the time you throw it, you need to be accurate, and Scotty is more accurate with the ball, and he's a good enough runner to run the offense. That's how I feel about it. So I wish Khalil the best. I'll be rooting for the young man. As long as he doesn't go to a rival, I'll be rooting for him to do well. Would not surprise me at all to see him land at North Texas with Neil Brown and new quarterback coach there, Tyler Allen, who was his quarterback coach at West Virginia. The pieces fit. And I don't think the timing here, I don't think it's a coincidence. So I wish him nothing but the best. I wish him success. I appreciate he put his body on the line for West Virginia in that BYU game. He took an absolute pounding in that game, rushed the ball for over 20 times because they could not do anything in the pass game or the run game with the backs because the O-line wasn't blocking. Well, he took a pounding. He showed great heart. He showed that he had that hard edge that Coach Rod looks for. But I do think there are other quarterbacks on the roster now and available to get who West Virginia will be able to lean on to win games with. So, again, I think it's the best for both sides. So, I wish Khalil nothing but the best. Go ball out somewhere, young man. I'm not surprised to see him land at a G6 school, earn his and maybe prove himself for a year or two, and then maybe try to move up to the Power 4 again at some point in the future. And heck, who knows? Maybe he lands at West Virginia again at some point in the future. It has happened. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So good luck, Khalil Wilkins. Let me know in the comments what you think about this move by Khalil. Do you think it's a smart move by him? And do you think, this is a negative for West Virginia that he's hitting the portal? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I want to give a quick shout out to my paid VIP members of this episode. I do random shout outs. It's one of the perks of being a paid member. I have 2 levels, $2.99 and $4.99 a month. All members get shout outs. The club level comes with a couple other perks like merch discounts and early access to some content that I put out occasionally. So, but the random shout outs for this episode are CB Mitch 2, Bob Swanger, Appalachia Africa Twin, Cody Cutright, and David Cummings. Thank you all for your support. And if you can't afford to be a paid member, you can support me for free by dropping the comment below that I mentioned, by hitting the thumbs up button. That helps as well. YouTube loves interactions. They love likes. They love comments. They love you when you hit the hype button below, which is between the download and thanks button. They love all that stuff. So all that helps my show, helps my algorithm. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, follow us at Couz's Corner. Make sure you drop us a 5-star rating if you like the content and like what we have to say and enjoy the show. That goes a long way in helping us grow this thing here at Couz's Corner. And again, if you want to get your small business or your large business advertised here on the show or over at our website or over at our social media platforms at WV Sports Chat, hit me up. You can have your logo. Instead of my logo, I can have your logo on that screen or on the screen up here as well. So let me know. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. I really hope the rest of your day or night, whenever you're watching, is top shelf. God bless you, and cue Country Roads.